bug fix implemented in real time. But to me, that kind of ruins the spirit of the challenge. I mean, it's not like the average person would be able to contact Linus Torvalds for help recompiling the kernel, you know?
With all of that in mind, I'm going with Bazite, specifically the KDE desktop environment. 1, it's the cool new kid on the block. 2, Bazite's documentation seemed slightly easier to parse through, which for me is a huge W. And 3, while it might be a little bit more limiting than CachyOS, which several people warned me about, those same people did tell me that it was a little bit easier for a first timer. I think I'm gonna take that.
Alright, so this and where is it? Did I already consume it? So yeah, I got 2 of those in one run. It was the first one is this, the second one was this, but level 1 everywhere. Basically just fucking whatever. Not sure what else to do with the essences. Should I just disable the essence things? And just farm it somewhere. Yay. Or should I find
contemplation
an essence to farm?
over here, Endman. Oh.
That trade-off. Now, some of you may remember from my AMD upgrade 2 years ago, I actually installed Pop! OS at the end. Spoiler alert, I haven't been using it. I had an issue with my Go XLR, and I spent way too long trying to figure it out that I ended up defaulting back to Windows 11. It's also worth mentioning that I'm only going to be swapping over my gaming PC to Linux, not my streaming PC. I can't afford to have any issues with that, and right now, it just works. And besides, all I hit is go live anyways. But who knows, if this goes well, maybe I'll be considering swapping that one over.
I, on the other hand, will be converting all of my PCs, which means that I need something that's compatible with both GeForce and Radeon GPUs. I will be converting all of my PCs to... yeah, that's where the script ends. I have to actually decide now. I'm going with Pop! OS. Just because it blew up on me once doesn't mean it'll blow up on me again. I'm gonna follow ChatGPT's recommendation here. I'm gonna start with one machine, get everything going the way that I want it, and then assuming that that goes well, I'm gonna stick with Pop! OS. Okay, so who nailed this? ChatGPT got the way I was already leaning. Pop! OS was the first recommendation from InterServer, whatever this is. NVIDIA drivers handle cleanly. Okay, Pop! OS. Drive me, daddy.
Feeling great today, huh? What, you guys started without me? My side of this challenge probably won't be quite as bad as Linus's, since I've been using Arch on my laptop for a while now, by the way, and I've gotten pretty comfortable with it. That being said, my use case on my laptop is fairly limited, so this is an expansion forward. I'm in, and I'm going with Cache OS. The whole reason why I've been running Arch on my laptop was to try to demystify and defang the scary experience of Linux for some people, because I wanted to show, like, look, I'm gonna put very little effort into this, to be completely honest, and I expect it's mostly gonna go okay. The reason for that was because my experience was limited mostly to a browser. So I kind of want to continue the Arch experiments, but in a way that the community is mostly flagging right now as better for gaming, which is going the caching direction. I still love Linux Mint, still use it in a couple spots here or there, just because I find it so, like, easy to get set up and going. But I know there were some comments under last challenge about my choice of Linux Mint. I'm like, oh, it's not as updated as other things, or blah, 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 because the Linux community loves to just scream about stuff all the time. I wouldn't dissuade you from choosing it. I'm just kind of doing an experiment thing with Arch and enjoying it right now. So I'm going to continue on Cache OS and hopefully it goes fine.
It is 8:03, and I am just about to start my Bazite installation. Here we go. Insert. Oh wait, crap, I gotta put the SSD in, but I got, hey, you guys like my new server rack? Ah, it's pretty cool. And Linus made fun of me saying I'd never see it again in the server rack case. Now, some of you might actually ask why I'm ripping out both of my drives in my computer, when Windows is probably only installed on one. Well, one thing I won't miss about Windows is there's this really weird bug. Sometimes when you rip out one drive, after you've installed it with two in it, it will show up in the boot option in the BIOS, but it will just fail to boot. I don't know how that is still a bug on Windows 11, but hey, I won't have to deal with that with Bazite, hopefully.
I have Cache OS on this flash drive ready to go, but I ran into a problem. My motherboard has an M.2 slot here, an M.2 slot here, here, and here, but I didn't build my system. I don't know where my current drive is installed. It should be installed here, but it was built by Linus's kid, so I have no idea. And my problem is, that's my system. This is the Bulbasaur PC, right? Getting to the M.2s behind this GPU is gonna be insane. Doing that without completely destroying my computer is not really possible. So hopefully I can remove this one little strip and there's no drive there and everything will be fine. But if there is a drive there, I'm screwed.
For no reason other than that I'm a sucker for punishment, I've decided to do my upgrade to Pop! OS here at Whale Land. I just gotta unplug my boot drive. I treated myself to an Octane drive a little while back. And I just gotta disable Secure Boot, and then hopefully this is gonna be completely painless and I'll be gaming in like 15 minutes. And we're off to a great start. Select your drive, can't see it. Well, I put it in a known good slot. Turns out the drive is bad. Why are these challenges always cursed?
Downside of a multi-monitor setup, this is my primary monitor, so we're trying to boot into the BIOS right now. We're gonna go into Fedora. Verifying shim sbait date failed. Something has gone seriously wrong. I've done nothing. Okay, I think I saw something related to Secure Boot. It is enabled. I'm gonna try disabling it. This OS version workstation, it's past its end of life date. What? I downloaded it fresh from Bazite's website today. That's a scary warning. So I did take this drive from the office. I wonder if that's why it's showing up as LTT. Maybe I did happen to grab a drive from work that had Fedora. I won't mark that against Bazite then. That was 100% on me. Okay, we're booting up again. Hey, there we go. Okay, Bazite, yes, we want to go into Live ISO just so I can do the install. Hey, there you go, little Bazite logo. Oh, this monitor lit up. Hey, there we go. Welcome to the Live ISO for Bazite. How would you like to install? Oh yeah, so the drive I did grab had Fedora on it. I wonder if this was the drive I used in the Linus Torvalds video. Erase data and install. I will say, I think the default background's really pretty. I might actually keep that. Kind of matches the keyboard colors, you know? While I'm waiting for an install, I might as well do a merch plug. LTGstore.com. Oh God, I punched my other camera. LTGstore.com.
All right, no drive under there. You can see an empty slot. They didn't decorate over the screws. W Linus's kids. Gamer time. Welcome to Cache OS. I used Rufus to flash my drive. I got the M.2 installed, and now we're here. So far, the hardest part was getting it to boot to the flash drive. I've been super interested in trying Hyperland, but I think I'm going to keep that for maybe something on my laptop or something that I'm more happy to just play with. I'm gonna try to keep pretty much everything the same as what I'm used to, except for cache OS, and just see how it goes. You know what? Calling an audible. Let's give it a shot. Lemonade, or how I first read it with my broken brain, is Limelight. Sounds cool. Looks cool. Gonna go with Grub. I'm just used to it. Hey, we're in. Everything seems okay so far. I wonder how many times Linus's brick is installed.
All right, now that I have a working drive, this is great. Prompted to set up encryption right out of the gate. You'll love to see it. Pretty painless setup so far. Don't need this. This looks fine. Ooh, we're in. Now I gotta play a game.
Oh, hey, there you go. Is a secure boot key added? Okay, well, let's do a reboot. I assume I just leave it on Fedora. What the frackle is this? Do I have to do the secure boot thing? Try this again. Error. You need to load the kernel first. Okay, maybe I should read the documentation. That's the error I was getting, so we're gonna use method B. Disable secure boot in the BIOS before proceeding and then re-enable it after enrolling the key. I have to enter a command in the host terminal? Oh, did I mess this up? You know what? I'm gonna try reinstalling it with secure boot enabled this time. And, oh man, I don't want to do that. It takes so long. Okay, well let's try reinstalling Bazite from the beginning with secure boot on this time, and we'll see if something's different. All right, I've reinstalled it. Documentation says to reboot, enroll the keys. Yes, it's just universal blue. I think I enabled it. Hey, there you go. I feel like I just went in a circle, but we'll let it cook. Hey, we're in. Okay, it did detect all three. I kind of have a weird one that's off to the side here, so I can like monitor chat when I do other stuff. Oh, okay. Not right now, Steam. That's kind of cool. Got Steam pre-installed. That'll be nice. Maybe I'll get a game up and running like real quick.
All right, here comes the point where we tripped up last time.
Hope you like this.
Well, that was painless. I'm almost there, but before I can game with this man, I'm gonna need voice chat. So we're getting Discord going. I already got Left 4 Dead 2 installed. Already there's some slightly icky things. I have Discord working, which is super cool. Really? All right, I'm ready to launch the game. What is this? What is this? The Linux curse might be coming for me. Wait, it magically healed itself. Magically healed itself. Well, this is messed up. I've got my Discord volume at 200%. I've got Luke's individual user volume at 170%. And I've got my system volume at 150%. And I can barely hear anybody. No, it's not you guys, it's me. I'm just experiencing Linux things. But hey, it could be worse. I could be that guy at a LAN who's not running his game in full screen. Sup, Rob? All right, just rebooted and no game volume whatsoever. What about like a YouTube video? Okay, that's loud. That's loud. That's a good sign. That is so bizarre. Okay, let's see if Discord is solved. If Discord's solved, we're good. And then Discord maybe just magically healed itself. What's up, gamers? Oh, we're good.
So did your audio just require a restart?
It's complicated. My system was set to like spit if out, so obviously that was why I was getting no audio in game, but that doesn't explain why I was getting extremely low audio in Discord.
Yeah, that's strange. It's that problem of like, why isn't this working? And then why is this working? It's like, what?
Yeah, I'd rather have why isn't it working than why is it working.
Oh, whoa, why did that change it? Do you see that? Since I have a dual PC set up in my server rack, this is my streaming PC that records. I was actually getting ready to record and it's not quite scaled correct. Like you can see I'm missing like half my taskbar. That was not a scaling thing. This monitor is not 4K, so I'm a little confused on why it's showing 4K as an option. I do normally set to 120 Hertz though. Well, it made everything, oh, whoa, why did that change it? Do you see that? It's scaled properly, but you know what scaled it properly is adjusting the frame rate. If I go to 140 on my OBS capture, it's not scaled right. But if I change it to 120 and apply it, now it's scaled appropriately. Like my scaling is the same, my resolution's the same. Now that I've got these displays configured, Steam looked like it was already installing, so let's double check that. Dude, are we gonna get a game going like that. I know it's not compatible. I'm still gonna download it because I want to try it. I won't blame any Bazite or Linux for it not working, but it's one of my go-to games right now. I need to test if PUBG is gonna work. Do I need to enable the Proton compatibility later? Hey, it's enabled right away. Oh yeah, look, it like installed it right here. Guess while that's installing, maybe I can get some other apps going here. Discord. Hey, there it is. Oh, Discord is high risk. This app uses legacy X11 windowing system, which allows it to record all keystrokes, captures. It also has access to the internet, meaning it could send your data to outside parties. Ooh, this is very timely. Well, I need Discord, so I'm installing it. That warning, as scary as it probably seems to a lot of people, I think it is kind of a cool thing that they're letting you know that it might be risky. So if you're a non-experienced user going to download something, it could give you a heads up, like, whoa, 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 just so you're aware. For Discord, we already know they're stealing all our data anyways. I don't know. Whoa, you can download Edge? Holy cow, you gotta be a psychopath. High risk. Let's go through audio while everything's installing really quick. It's showing up is huge. I hear the mic is going directly to the Rodecaster, and the Rodecaster should just pass out. Hey, it's being detected. Wow, that was really fast. Really? I'm gonna call my wife really quick. Hello, hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I didn't have to configure anything. That's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, but hey, the fact that I didn't have to troubleshoot it makes me very happy.
Just installed it, instantly installed OBS.
One more round.
I had to restart my Rodecaster, but then it worked immediately. We'll see if the audio is fine. Seems like the audio was fine. Off to bigger and better things. So I'm gonna get Teams installed here because I need to do a work call. Well, the Teams call went fine, sort of. The Teams is still a very annoying experience on Linux, regardless of what Linux flavor you go with. There's no official app. I was using the Teams for Linux open source community thing. It's like fine. There's some kludginess here and there. It seems like most of the community agrees that the best way to do it these days is to just run it through the browser entirely, which I really don't prefer. But I'm gonna keep fighting with Teams for Linux and see if I can get it working in a state that I would like. I would say with the like install it real quick, sign in, and it works perfectly. No, not quite. But at least they're doing it. Not like Microsoft supporting it, so I appreciate the effort. Another thing that I would say is that gaming has been perfectly fine so far. Slay the Spire is working no problem. Gaming so far going okay. No major hiccups with anything as of right now, but I'll let you know if things change.
Well, Control-Alt-Delete doesn't do anything. Alt-Tab allows me to switch to things, but my mouse is not there. Like I'm hearing like like in my ears. This is so awesome. I managed to play a game for 20 seconds. I must just be cursed. I have to be cursed at this point. Okay, I managed to find this. I'm gonna try to end the process. Half-Life 2, I think. Is this, hello? Delete? Is that not gonna work? That's not gonna do anything? Yeah, I have 7 people waiting for me because I'm a special Linux snowflake right now. I don't understand why trying to do the most basicest of things, launch a Valve game on a fresh install, manages to be like this. I'm even on AMD, guys. I'm on AMD. I'm going back to Windows for now because this is just, it's not acceptable. I have to be able to play the game right now.
Okay, the last thing now, I think I'm just gonna game. Ooh, it's got a borked rating. As of 2 weeks ago, someone said it's borked. So, yikes. I won't blame any Bazite or Linux for it not working. Judging by how long it's taking, that's not a good sign. A month without PUBG. Okay, well, let's launch Balatro. Hey, there we go.
All right, we finished the round. It's the next day, and I'm gonna see if I can figure out what the heck was going on there. Off to a great start. All right, I'm just playing single player now. Let's see how this goes. All right, this is how far I made it last time.
Now you are playing the power. I just gotta
try running it in Vulkan. Unfortunately, there's no in-game setting for it, but apparently this will do the trick.
Like you gotta break through this wall.
And there it is, that was the fix. Not complicated, but definitely frustrating when you consider that this is a first-party Valve title and the bugginess is so immediately apparent when you try to play the game. And there's also apparently been an issue since at least July of last year. To be clear, none of this is meant to discount the experiences that other people have. It's just to also acknowledge that not everybody has such a seamless experience. With Left 4 Dead solved, our next challenge is going to be Helldivers 2. We're going to be playing with the VIPs. I've never played before, so I'm finding so much weird stuff, dude. It like turned into 2 black windows that then turned into this. Oh, whoa, check this out. Why am I cursed like this? Opening cinematic played okay, and this looks promising other than the weird white line that I have at the left and top for some reason. Is the mouse supposed to do anything?
It's supposed to do something.
Hold on, here's an idea. Okay, so look up, we can rebind that. Let's go left click. Okay. Hey, controller works. I guess I'm gaming on a controller, boys.
So I'm going to install Dolphin. Oh, wait. Dolphin's the name of their, the file manager, right? Oh, speaking of files, I should try to mount my network share. So network, shared folders, SMB. Oh, dude, is it going to find it for me? Whoa, it found it for me. Hell yeah. Add. Can I pin them to the side? Oh, I can. Oh, that's kind of nice. That was really easy to mount my network share. And these are SMB, set as default app. Hey, there you go. Hey, I set VLC as a default app. I'm feeling pretty decent right now. I have my audio working. I have a game running. I have my SMB share mounted. The most painful roadblock was by far like getting it to this point. A quick recap on what happened with the secure boot thing was I turned secure boot off because I thought that's what it needed when the Fedora drive that I accidentally grabbed from work was asking for it. Then when I installed Bazite, it was, hey, turn secure boot on. I don't have it on, I have your key. But after I installed it, I think I might have gotten a little bit confused or chose the wrong thing when it asks me to enroll it. I needed to make sure that secure boot was on first. And now that it was on when I installed it, it was pretty painless. I do think it's a little weird that they still wanted me to type Universal Blue when I was enabling the keys. I'm not really sure why. I do wonder how much it'll help me in the future if there's a software or a game that requires secure boot. I wonder if Linus is gonna have as smooth of a time or if his is gonna be a little bit worse.
Well, this is remarkable. I'm up to 3 Steam windows now. Nope, can't type. After I figured out the control issues, we did manage to get through the entire Helldivers mission with no further complications. So while I wouldn't call today a success, it also wasn't a complete failure, and I think I'm ready to do a little bit more Googling, learn a bit more, figure out what the heck is going on with my Steam interface here. Now, it is worth noting that while I am obviously showing a lot of the problems I'm having today, I'm not trying to make Linux look bad or anything, and there were aspects of the experience that were much better. For instance, setting up Pop! OS involved none of my data being given away. And maybe more importantly, if you don't like futzing about with things, is I had to do nothing to get all of my various devices working. No going to the manufacturer's website, downloading drivers, none of that nonsense. The convenience of the Cosmic Store and it being something I might actually want to use, unlike the Windows Store, pretty nice. And so far, I've got to give it credit for being pretty darn intuitive, other than maybe the pressing the power button to reach my settings. That has like Windows 95, you press start to shut down kind of energy. With all that said, I'm excited about the next month, and I hope you guys are excited to come along with us, and excited to hear about our sponsor, Meter. As your company grows and branches out around the world, you'll need a network that can scale with your operation.
This is what happens when you pour 5 in-game years and 200 real-life hours into one stupid question. How much capitalism can Stardew Valley survive? To find out, I took my perfect 100% save and turned it into an industrial nightmare. Kegs, dehydrators everywhere, 2,000 mystic trees, and more than 9,000 garden pots. I abused multiplayer cabins for extra farmland, built nearly 100 fish ponds just for tree seeds, mined 10,000 radioactive ore for heavy tappers, and filled every legal tile the villagers couldn't complain about. All for one simple goal: break the valley. 0 gold to the cap in as few days as possible. This is Stardew Valley's profit limit, and this is what it took.
Them.
This is the same world I 100%ed in my previous movie, and while I decorated the farm beautifully, all of these frills are going to drag down its profitability. So, over the next 3 days, I wiped the slate completely clean. Now this is a farm I can actually scale. As the introduction gave away, it is now time to fill this land up with mystic trees and mushroom logs, only I don't have nearly enough components on hand to turn this into this.
Now, if you didn't know, Mystic Trees are the most profitable item in Stardew Valley. One, because they produce Mystic Syrup every 7 days, or every 3 days with a heavy tapper. And two, because when a mushroom log is placed in the vicinity of one, it's most likely to spawn purple mushrooms, which are the most profitable mushrooms in the game. But, because of this, Mystic Trees do come at a pretty expensive cost. Okay, I know what you're thinking. 5 tree seeds, how hard can that be to get? Well, maybe 5 tree seeds aren't too hard to get all on their own, but when you need 2,000 of them, you're gonna need to find a pretty consistent way to procure these things.
And this brings us to exhibit number 1, wood skips. Grinding seeds manually works, but it's nowhere near as consistent as wood skips in a fish pond. A fish pond with 10 skips in it has a 4% chance every day of producing 1 to 5 pine cones, maple seeds, or acorns. With a golden animal cracker, that number doubles, meaning you have a chance to receive up to 10 of any of those 3 seed types every day. So naturally, I plan to ask Robin to build 50 of them, but these ponds themselves aren't easy to get situated. Since each fish pond takes 5 green algae and seaweed to build, I'm going to have to spend days fishing those items up. Additionally, the best way to grind for golden animal crackers is fishing, and since I need 50 of those too, I'll have plenty more casting out to do thereafter. But more on that later. Exhibit number 2 is this mahogany tree array I have growing here. Mahogany trees are not like the other 3 cousins. They yield hardwood, which I am going to need a truckload of later on, but they also yield that 4th component for mystic trees, the mahogany seed. Now these pesky seeds aren't grindable through wood skips unfortunately, so I have to devote the other half of the farm for now to grinding them a different, less passive way. Every mature tree on the farm has a 15% chance every night of spawning a seed within a 3x3 radius around the tree. Having 150 of these fully grown mahogany trees means there will usually be about 20 of their seeds waiting for me in the ground every morning. They can just be a bit hard to see, so I put flooring behind them all to narrow down how closely I have to look every day. Trust me, it helps. So with this mahogany orchard and the wood skip ponds running full time, eventually I will have enough tree seeds to produce all the mystic saplings I need for this ambitious project. The mystic trees are far from the only thing I plan to need, and that brings me to our next target, one that any Stardew player surely knows plenty about: kegs. Selling wine from kegs is the age-old, tried-and-true method of capitalizing Stardew Valley. Now most people usually stop at 200 to 300 of them, and that's probably plenty for the standard playthrough. There isn't a Lamborghini available for purchase, so making more than 1,000,000 G a day isn't exactly necessary. For this run though, where the goal is to break the money tracker, we're not sparing a single tile in the valley. If it's a placeable tile and no townspeople path through it, I'm going to place a keg on it. Kegs take a few simple materials to craft: an iron bar, a copper bar, and some wood. Thankfully, those are all purchasable from Robin or Clint. The input that I can't buy is the oak resin, and that's why the first thing I did early on was plant an acorn array at the train station, with plans to plant even more at the quarry in the future. And with 400 plus taps sucking these oak trees dry, I should have enough oak resin to fill the valley with kegs in about 1 to 2 in-game years. And one more resource on the grocery list that I'll be needing plenty of is plant fibers. So once every week, I'll be planting a new set of about 200 fiber seeds on this plot here on the west of the farm. These will give me ample fiber reserves for deluxe retaining soil later on, but slightly more important than that, I just need to churn these out for tree fertilizer down the road, since I'll be needing tons of it. Why, you ask? Because to make mystic trees actually yield any profit, a major component is hardwood. And instead of painstakingly harvesting 12 little itsy bits of hardwood a day at the secret woods, the most efficient way to generate the stuff is through just spam growing mahogany trees. So while I'm grinding for seed, hitting my hardwood every night, I'll also be letting time harvest a secondary resource for me by planting every seed I get at the cindersap woods with a bit of fertilizer to help them grow as quickly as possible. Now, moving on to things I can't control so meticulously, a major factor in preparing for this challenge will be the luck system, which influences just about everything. From determining clay drops to the likelihood of seeing the fabled radioactive ore in the mines, I'm going to need a lot of luck. Thankfully here, I was able to pan for one of the most busted items in the game, a luck ring. Panning is the best way to get one of these incredibly rare bad boys, and so, since I started preparing for the challenge, every time I've seen a pan spot, I've been furiously running towards it with more conviction than a fat kid rolling towards the sound of a candy wrapper being opened. This luck ring houses incredible power, and it will ensure that I get the best rate for seed drop drops from trees, as well as treasure chests appearances while fishing. Why do I care so much about treasure chests? You remember how I mentioned those golden animal crackers earlier?
Welcome to the Task Manager News. My name is Shift-Desk. Today's top story, one maniac is trying to discover the limits of Stardew Valley's profit system. When approached for comment, he stated, quote, "The ladies are gonna love this," end quote. This newscaster is dubious. And now it's time for our math segment, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Also Me. Thank you. Now, have you ever wondered how those little treasure chests work in the Stardew Valley fishing minigame? Whenever you get a fish on the hook, there's a 15% chance that a treasure chest will show up. This probability can be increased by 15% if you add the pirate profession. You can increase the likelihood even further by 15% more if you fish with exclusively magnets as bait. And to stack on top of that, you can also add another 5% for each treasure hunter tackle that you're using. Daily luck can add 5% to the total depending on how high or low it is. Additionally, the permanent special charm buff adds a 1.25% chance. All food and drink luck buffs add 0.5% chance for each level, and luck rings will add 0.5% chance each. So in theory, were you to add all these components together, you would have a 64.25% chance of finding a treasure chest on every fish that you hook. Now, why do you care? Well, if you were hunting for golden animal crackers, this info would be very useful to you. Golden animal crackers are found in fishing chests 7% of the time. Compared to every other method of getting them, fishing chests are just by far the best. Were you to hook 50 fish in a single day, you would probably pull about 32 treasure chests with this method, and that would yield anywhere from 2 to 3 golden animal crackers on average. So if you were to need about 50 of these things for some harebrained ridiculous challenge, you would only need to fish about 25 days in game to get all the ones that you need.
And while you were watching that lengthy segment, several days later, I finished fishing up my 50th golden animal cracker. Now then, what's next on our grocery list here? Clay. Clay is a majorly important resource to this challenge because it is used in a ton of useful components. For example, it's used in the fiber seeds recipe, without which I wouldn't be able to farm plant fibers. As I mentioned earlier, fibers are needed for deluxe retaining soil, which I plan to use with copious amounts of garden pots later on. But aside from fibers, clay is also a component for that soil recipe as well. And what's more, clay is also used to craft garden pots. As you can see though, I only have 20 clay, and this is about to be gobbled up for more fiber seeds when these ones over here finish up in another day. So today I'm going to show you what I think is the best method for farming this stuff, and spoiler, it is not cheap. We all know that the Ginger Island dig site is a great passive clay farm, it being the only place in the game where these clay nodes appear. But 55 clay every 7 days simply isn't going to cut it for my plans. I need to generate thousands more, and the only surefire way to do that is this. At the mines, there is one specific floor layout that will spawn a ton of tillable dirt. The layout is almost always mapped to floors 13, 53, and 93, and tilling dirt in the mines has a much higher clay drop rate than above ground. So high that were you to drop a few bombs on these large plots of it, you could usually clear about 10 or more clay without much real effort. Just reload the mines by exiting, hit the elevator, drop some staircases to get to the floor of interest, spam a few mega bombs, and repeat. This method isn't exactly fast or cheap, considering these mega bombs cost 1600 G apiece from the dwarf, but it is a steady method like no other for farming clay, as well as cave carrots, which can be traded at the raccoon shop for mixed seeds, which is another component we need for the fiber seeds. A full day of this method runs about 200 to 300 mega bombs and about 60 staircases, costing a third of a million G and plenty of jades for my crystallariums. That's okay though, because that's what this plot of ancient fruit at Ginger Island is for. With the wine produced by these, I make more than 700,000 G a week, giving me about 2 full days of clay grinding, which equates to roughly 500 to 600 clay total. Nothing too shabby, and a lot more than what the dig site was yielding. But I could do way better cash flow wise. Currently, I have a little more than 400 kegs since the end of my year 2 100% challenge. That allows me to produce just as much ancient fruit per week, but this plot produces 700 ancient fruit weekly, so it's time to craft another few hundred kegs. The oak tree array at the train station has been coming along quite nicely, so I crafted a bunch of tappers and slapped one on every tree there. In another week, I'll have enough oak resin to start the first expansion on keg capacity. And now that those kegs have been placed and the backwoods are brimming with capitalistic productivity, weekly cash flow will be running at about 2 million G per week. But crafting all those kegs totally decimated my wood stores, and though I do plan on buying most of the wood I will end up using, when the Green Rain event hit shortly after, it was a welcome development. Typically, I would spend today swinging my scythe around the valley like a madman to collect collect fibers. But since I'm yielding about 900 per week with fiber seeds, that isn't my priority any longer. Instead, I went around the valley swiping at trees for moss. I'll be needing multiple stacks of moss for this challenge because it is a key component in, you know this, mushroom logs. 10 moss goes into crafting just one mushroom log. Since I'll be crafting about 2,000, I'll be needing at least 20,000 moss. But moss is tricky to farm. The Green Rain event only comes once a year, and if you optimize for it, you can really only pull 400 to 500 moss. And I don't have 40 years to sit around waiting for my annual moss harvests. This brings me to our next exhibit of passive resource generation: trees. Outside of the Green Rain event, moss can only be obtained when it grows on mature trees. This is why I've planted hundreds of trees at the desert, Ginger Island, and in parts of the valley. Every day, each mature tree on the entire game has about a 15% chance to grow moss, depending on weather and season. Sunny days and summer reduce the chances, and winter eliminates the chance altogether, excluding the desert and Ginger Island. When the Green Rain event hits, every mature tree grows moss, making it quite the lucrative event if you have an abundance of trees planted in the valley. When you harvest moss from a mature tree, the tree usually takes anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks to grow more. You can get 1 to 2 moss from each tree at harvest though, so if there are hundreds, you can reliably harvest about as much moss as you have mature trees bi-weekly to create a steady stream of moss production. And since the Green Rain event occurred, I was able to make my first hardwood harvest at Cindersap Forest, nearly 150 mahogany trees. That makes 1,500 hardwood in my pocket. It seems like more than any sane person would need for an entire playthrough, but as you are keenly aware, I am far from sane.
I need hardwood for 2 purposes. 10 hardwood goes into every mushroom log, and 30 goes into a core machine that we need for this challenge, the Heavy Tapper. The Heavy Tapper does the same thing as the regular tapper, only, heavier.
Cut. What the hell does that even mean? Who wrote that line? Fire whoever wrote that line.
You wrote that line, sir. Oh. Well, then you're fired. I don't even work here. I'm just a disembodied narrative device for comedic relief. Do you want to keep going?
Quiet, you. So anyways, the Heavy Tapper draws its product a lot quicker than the regular tapper. Obviously, if the challenge is to make as much money as quickly as possible, then there's no way we can ignore these things, meaning that I need 30 hardwood for every single one of them. And if I need to make 2,000, that means I'm going to need disembodied voice.
That'll be 60,000 hardwood.
Thank you. So, I will be repeating the hardwood cycle for many in-game years. That shouldn't be a problem though, because the other component in Heavy Tappers is a real doozy to collect, and I'll be needing a butt-clenching amount of that too.
Radioactive ore, the more elusive cousin of iridium, is an incredibly difficult resource to procure in large quantities. Just my luck, I'll be needing 1 radioactive bar for each Heavy Tapper that I plan to craft. 2,000 plus radioactive bars? That calls for at least 10,000 radioactive ore. Looks like there will be no shortage of work to do while I wait for all those mahogany trees to grow. Let me break down why radioactive ore is such a tough resource to grind. It only spawns in the dangerous mines or the Skull Cavern, and even then, it's heavily gated by daily luck. Luck buffs and depth help, but daily luck does most of the work. Even with high daily luck though, it's not like iridium mining. You don't descend to a new floor and find 10 or more nodes at a time. Most of the time, you're happy to see 1 or 2 of these green rocks every 5 floors, and you get really excited about seeing 3 at once. Did I mention that even with the miner profession, each node usually only yields 2 to 3 ore? Yeah, if I want to finish this challenge before I'm 90, I'm going to have to devise a strategy that gives me the best spawn odds as well as the best daily quantity of output. It's a good thing we have a consultant on standby for explaining stuff like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go over how to procure as much radioactive ore as possible. Now, the high-level Stardew community has contested for years which radioactive ore grinding method is truly the best, but anybody who doesn't agree that it's the Reset Floor 1 method might be a little stupid. At the dangerous mines, entering and exiting Floor 1 repeatedly will force the game to rerun the radioactive ore spawn formula, allowing you to quickly roll for ore nodes without taking much in-game time. Oh, excuse me. Can you change the teleprompter? I don't... yes, that's good, that's good. Thank you. When you spot the node, simply fire an explosive slingshot projectile and collect the resulting ore. Then just exit the floor and repeat. With maximum daily luck, a high magnetism ring set, and excellent slingshot accuracy, this method will easily yield 300 plus ore per day, with the potential for upwards of 500. It is inarguably the best means in the game. But, and it's a big but, like Aunt Fanny, this method falters a bit in less than ideal daily luck situations. Good daily luck is common. Perfect daily luck is not. You might only see it 5 or 6 times per month. It's even less likely that the dwarf statue's ore yield buff will fall on one of those lucky days. Hence, what do you do when you need radioactive ore today, but you only have decent daily luck?
Well, that's when you employ a more challenging, less efficient strategy at the dangerous Skull Cavern. But be warned, it isn't for the faint of heart. On positive luck days, you can still source anywhere from 100 to 200 radioactive ore this way with a lot of effort. You just need 100 plus staircases, explosives, ring swapping, and an unreasonable amount of luck buffs. For this challenge, I really don't want to have to do all that, because I need an obscene amount of the stuff, so all of my radioactive ore will come from Method 1. But I'll have the option of resorting to Method 2 if perfect daily luck proves elusive. 1 month later. Well, thanks to a lot of perfect luck days this fall, that's 3 full stacks of the green stuff. About 1/3 of what I'll need in only a month's time. And with my 32nd fish pond under construction, I have nearly run out of space for the remaining 18, meaning I have to sell the barn animals. They've been with me since the beginning of this world, providing me with valuable resources day in and day out. But after all this time, these critters were no longer just a means for profit. They had become dear friends. Dear friends who I kept in an ethically questionable, aggressively tiny enclosure for the last 3 months to clear up land for facilitating my descent into madness. Parting ways with them is like saying your last goodbye to a cherished family member. I'll always remember you, Mayor Ham, Dr. Evil, Ted, and Steve. That got a little dramatic. Sheesh. Anyways, that's the 50th fish pond installed. I'm hoping that I won't need any more ponds than this, but I'm a bit concerned. I've been getting a lot of ground covered on the garden pot and keg-related resources like clay and oak resin, and I'm pretty close to having enough radioactive bars now. This is more than most players have ever seen at once without cheats, I'm pretty sure. Meanwhile, I still don't even have 1,000 of each tree seed yet, and while trading all my saved up cave carrots for mixed seeds at the raccoon house, I learned that you can trade 20 coal for a mahogany seed, and coal can be bought for 250 G at Clint's. So effectively, I can buy infinite mahogany seeds for 5,000 G apiece, meaning that this mahogany array is completely unnecessary. Now that I've freed up all this space, it can't hurt to fill it up with more fish ponds. And that means more golden animal cracker grinding. Yippee! Now, of course, if I'm going to buy thousands of mahogany seeds at 5,000 G a pop, I'll be needing an equally lofty cash flow to facilitate that stupidity. Thankfully, that's the whole point of this challenge. With all this clay on hand now, I think this is the perfect time to start establishing my first major endgame money stream. The crop that's going to bankroll the rest of this madness. Pineapples! I haven't circled the final count yet, but for now, we're starting with 1,500 garden pots and deluxe retaining soil. I have just about that many pineapple seeds saved up from seeding the 50 pineapples I get every week in the greenhouse. You may be asking yourself, why pineapples? The answer is simple. I want a crop that produces forever, without replanting, while I'm busy placing several thousand kegs in my neighbors' backyards. Now, here's what the Ginger Island farm looks like with all those pots placed. And don't think I forgot about all the useful space and the extra nooks and crannies. That includes the bungalow interior, too. And believe it or not, just for all this, I had to go and craft more garden pots because 1,500 wasn't even enough. Now, with 1,653 pineapple plants constantly producing, I'll be needing just as many kegs placed around the valley to keep up. Thankfully, I've been sapping up 500 oak resin every 7 days for the last month and a half, so I have that bottleneck cared for. Now, to craft the 7,000 kegs I have to craft to meet my final goal, I have to procure an utterly comical amount of wood, 210,000 to be exact. I also need 7,000 copper and iron bars, or 35,000 of each respective ore. Thankfully, I thought ahead ahead and shelled out the 14 million G it costs to purchase those earlier at Clint's shop. Money is an excellent time saver, and since I don't want to wait an eon to harvest 20 wood at a time from growing trees either, I'm going to make even more capital expenditures and purchase all the wood I need from my friendly neighborhood carpenter, Rob, who has also been working full-time building fish ponds for me. I wonder what her store's stock chart looks like from all this revenue. 4 million G later, and I had enough wood to craft 3,500 kegs. With the 800 I have placed around the valley, this brings our current total to 4,300, more than halfway there. But I did run out of investment funds, so the remaining 2,700 will have to wait on their genesis. That's okay though, because it is going to take me at least a fortnight to place these all around the valley. And while you're watching this montage of me placing these kegs in Pelican Town, I would feel remiss if I did not give credit to the person who made this ridiculous challenge possible. This is Wickedy, or to be more specific, this is her website. She took time out of her life to contribute something that I feel is priceless to the Stardew Valley community. Her website is dedicated to mapping out villager paths and safe zones for machine placement throughout the world of Stardew. Without these very detailed maps, this challenge simply wouldn't exist. Okay, editor shift here. At the time I was writing this part of the script, Wickedy's website was down temporarily, but it did come back on later. So while it was down, I had to test a lot of map locations and interiors in the game myself, and I ended up crafting 2,000 signs and placing them on every tile and mostly every interior in the game. Fun stuff. More on this later, but the link to Wickedy's website is in the description if you want to check it out. And now that that's out of the way, I should be finishing placing all those kegs right about now. At the end of it all, I had about 700 left over, but those can get placed later. Pelican Town is now brimming with potential, and after 4 straight days of machine placement, my character deserves a nice rest in the dirt. And in all that time, looks like the pineapples are finally ready for harvest at Ginger Island. As I mentioned much earlier in the video, there literally isn't enough time in a single day to place all these pineapples and ancient fruit in kegs. So what I plan to do is section out about 1,500 kegs in zones and mark each batch on my trusty Excel spreadsheet. I currently have enough fruit growing that I can do 2 weekly cycles of about that many, yielding roughly 2,500 wine per week. That ought to help me afford the thousands of mahogany seeds I need. And on the topic of mahogany, I have 20 plus stacks of hardwood stored up now, about a quarter of what I'm gonna need. I'm steadily amassing about 2 full stacks every 2 weeks at Cindersap Forest, but eventually I'm going to need this whole forest for kegs. So I need to get a move on and finish saving up hardwood before I can get the rest of the keg army into production. Of course, I'm not going to be able to put those kegs to use if I don't start planting more pineapples. And this amount of clay simply won't be enough to craft all the garden pots I want. So I'll be in the mines blowing stuff up for at least another couple of in-game months. Thankfully, the wait will be a lot shorter for you. 100 days later. Okay, editor shift here again. Around this point in the timeline, my capture software decided to become a silent film enthusiast, so I lost almost all the game audio for the remainder of the challenge. I did some reshoots where it felt totally necessary later on, but for scenes I couldn't reshoot, I'll just be providing the sound effects myself. You're welcome, and also I'm very sorry for what I'm about to do to your ears. And I now have plenty of clay to work with. And while I was grinding that, I also finished filling all the empty space on the main farm with fish ponds, to Robin's dismay. And thanks to all my fishies, I've been accumulating plenty of I am almost ready to begin the next phase of capitalist development, and while these ponds continue to produce, I've got plenty of garden pots to place in the meantime. But wait a minute, most of the world is now full, either with kegs or existing garden pots. So you may be wondering where I plan to place 4,000 more of these. Well, wonder no further, my dear viewer. I'm about to show you where you can conjure up thousands of useful tiles, all for the low price of 700 G. Stardew Valley is not just a game to be enjoyed alone. You can play it with friends too, which I do not have. But don't worry, if you don't have friends to play with you, all you need is a second Steam account with Stardew Valley and a second PC to benefit from the method I plan to employ. Thankfully, Mrs. Shift-esque has both of those things. So when she wasn't using her laptop, I booted up Stardew on her account and created not 1, not 2, but 7 separate profiles, all of which are entitled to one personal cabin, which has its own exclusive interior, just like the farmhouse. All 7 cabins are also upgradable, meaning I can expand their interiors to be just the same size as my own maxed out cabin. Do you see where this is going? This is a fully upgraded cabin full of pineapple plants. So is this, and this, and this. You get the idea. I also filled in the greenhouse, and don't think I forgot about the main farmhouse. I sure hope Krobus doesn't mind all of this. So now that I have 7,242 pineapple plants constantly producing, I now have more than enough fruit coming on a weekly basis to fill out my 7,000 kegs perpetually. Oh, and these cabins don't just come with free space upstairs. Each basement also has space for 117 casks for aging wine. Technically I could do more, but I don't think I'll have time to do the cask breaking method and fill out every tile in 8 separate separate basements. And here's what Cindersap Forest looks like brimming with the rest of those kegs. And don't worry, I didn't forget about all the useful space in the secret woods. Now, you're probably asking yourself, if he used Cindersap Forest for kegs, that must mean he has enough hardwood to start planting mystic trees and placing mushroom logs. And you're absolutely correct! You've clearly been paying attention and not doom scrolling on a second screen, viewer. And now the only piece of the puzzle left is the mahogany seeds I've yet to purchase. I need 50 million G to buy 10,000 of them, and I only have 10 million currently, so I'll have to grind wine for a little while more.
A little while later.
And now that I have all the money I need, I can clean Clint out for enough coal to power a small country, and then trade it with the raccoons. Not sure what they'll use it for, but they shouldn't be needing any more coal for the foreseeable future. But I am still a few thousand of each seed type away from the 10,000 mark, so I can at least start placing some mystic trees, but these fish ponds are going to have to stay for a little while longer.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting, and they had to hire a new one.
And I just pulled the last few seeds that I needed on Fall 23, Year 7. Now, with all the preparations made, it is finally time to say goodbye to all these fish ponds. And hello to several hundred mystic trees. I also planted hundreds more at Ginger Island, the train station, the quarry, and the desert. In total, that makes 2,041 trees, and 2 years shaved off my lifespan. And I finally cashed in my 2,000 radioactive bars and 20,000 moss to craft heavy tappers and mushroom logs. I'll be right back once I'm done placing these. And now that that's done, I'm pretty much finished setting everything up. What a ride. It only took 5 in-game years, 200 real-life hours, 3 months of consistent playtime after my day job, and a partial exchange of my long-term sanity. But with that, it's almost time for us to measure just how much money this all generates. First though, we have some loose ends to tie up. Remember when I mentioned that I was testing out every interior for save tiles after temporarily losing access to Wickedy's site? Well, plenty of time has passed after forcing all the townsfolk to live in a hoarded mess of signs, and I now have a pretty good picture of which tiles are usable in everyone's home to compare against Wickedy's maps. Meaning it's time to exploit the valley further. Realistically, I probably won't have time to harvest every one of these pineapples on a weekly basis, but in the spirit of supreme rent-seeking bourgeoisie behavior, I'm gonna fill everyone's homes with pineapples anyway. I'll also be placing some in the backwoods tunnel, the spa, and the witch's swamp.
Because there is no Pelican Town constitutional legislation in place to stop me.
And by the way, if you've liked the video so far, consider dropping a like, maybe even subscribe too. It's free.
Unlike the citizens of Pelican Town.
Anyways, another thing I need to do is change my foraging profession one more time to Tapper. This makes Tapper products worth 25% more, making Mystic Syrup sell for 1,250 G instead of just 1,000 G apiece. Times 2,000, that's 2.5 million G every 3 days. Not too shabby, huh? Next thing I need to update is the ancient fruit plot at Ginger Island and the greenhouse, both of which are still using sprinklers, which are not 100% optimal. Why waste space on sprinklers for irrigating ancient fruit when I can sustain water on every tile infinitely with deluxe retaining soil? Now, that only saved about 35 tiles at Ginger Island and the greenhouse combined, but it would have been technically suboptimal if left alone.
You know I hate suboptimal.
And speaking of suboptimal, I learned something while furiously shoving fruit into kegs for 2 months to buy all those mahogany seeds. Something that changes this entire challenge. The keg method wastes time. I hate to admit it, I just spent several hundred real-life hours placing kegs on nearly every legal tile in Stardew Valley, but I can barely service 2,000 of them in a single in-game day. Having 7,000 doesn't really help. I can't harvest everything and reach them all in a single week, and trying to manage them just slows me down. So, after a lot of math, I came to a painful conclusion. If I actually want to maximize profit from mushrooms and pineapples, I need fewer machines. 2,000 dehydrators to be exact. Let me explain why.
When I started this challenge, I fell for the classic fallacy. Bigger is better, but it isn't. Dehydrators beat kegs in terms of efficiency for 3 reasons. First, input volume. Kegs take 1 fruit at a time. Dehydrators take 5. That alone slashes the weekly necessary machine count. Second, speed. Kegs take 7 days. Dehydrators take only 1. That means that I can use 1 array to meet all my needs on a daily cycle. Third, versatility. Dehydrators accept fruit and mushrooms. With around 20,000 inputs produced every single week, 2,000 of them will be more than enough to keep up. It'll be a lot smoother than my vast keg ocean.
Alright, enough yip yap. I went ahead and grinded another 4,000 clay from the mines, and then I switched out some kegs in Cindersap Forest with dehydrators and placed a bunch in the sewers. I'm leaving all these other kegs around the valley as a reminder to the villagers that
I am inevitable.
And lastly, to get the money counter back to 0G, I'm gonna buy some beer and pizza from Gus to celebrate if this all goes well. And the rest I'm going to spend on hundreds of mega bombs, so if anything else goes awry, I can invoke the Samson option and take the rest of the valley with me. Now, just like any challenge, the tools we've assembled to this point are a major component, but execution is also pivotal to success here. The goal is simple. Take this counter from 0 to 99,999,999G in as few days as possible. Thus, I have to make sure I'm using my time as efficiently and consistently as I can. We start the challenge on Fall 1, Year 8, 5.5 years after beginning preparations. I start day 1 with casking ancient fruit wine that I saved from before the challenge, because casks take the longest time to finish their produce of any machine we will be employing. The rest of the day was spent harvesting pineapples and ancient fruit at Ginger Island. Day 2 of the challenge, I proceeded to harvest all the pineapples I could in the main farm cabins and around the valley for the entire day. I ended up with 5,198. Day 3 was much the same as the last day. I finished up harvesting the entirety of the pineapples in the valley while hopped up on spicy eel and espresso. My final count after hitting every pineapple and ancient fruit plant in the game was 9,145 and 893 respectively. Just over 10,000 fruit in a single week. Day 4, it was time to harvest mushrooms and mystic sap. I popped a rain totem at home, the desert, and Ginger Island. Why? Because when it rains, mushroom logs, which normally take 4 days to produce, will yield mushrooms in just 3 days. Since heavy tappers take 3 days, and since my mushroom logs and mystic trees are all next to each other, I want to align produce days for them both to be ready for harvest at the same time. This ensures that I'm spending as little time as possible harvesting the very valuable outputs from the mystic tree setup. At the end of it all, here's the yield I ended up with. I didn't get to every single mystic tree before 2 a.m., but that is the point of the challenge. And the next day, I shipped all the gold and iridium quality mushrooms before going to dehydrate the rest. You actually make more from just selling iridium produce as opposed to dehydrating it. Go figure. At Cindersap, I eventually ran out of mushrooms to dehydrate and started dehydrating some normal and silver quality pineapples. And I was able to hit every dehydrator with plenty of time left in the day. So I started to place gold quality pineapples and ancient fruit in the kegs at the forest until I passed out at 2 a.m. And our first bit of income was measured. 2.4 million G. Very nice. Day 6 of the challenge, I procured my first dehydrated produce and started another batch of pineapples, getting through every bit of produce that was retrieved within the last week. I even had a few hours at the end of the day to teleport to Ginger Island and get the last bit of mystic syrup and mushrooms I missed from day 4. And this is what it's all about. That's 4.5 million G in a single day, all from 1 day's worth of dehydrated produce. Day 7, I was right back to harvesting mystic syrup and mushrooms, and it was at this point that I was starting to get into a good money-making groove. Unfortunately, the prior day I learned that rain totems do not work at the desert. Who would have thought? So seeing as I knew I'd have some extra time this day, I decided to harvest the mushrooms there before heading to Cindersap Forest to get my dehydrating on. And that's another 4 million G in my pocket, making a whopping 13.5 million G garnered in just a single week using this setup. So from this point, I am sure you can see the rhythm and pattern that has been established. Harvest fruit, harvest mushrooms, dehydrate, repeat. And if there's any extra time to do some wine, that'll be just fine. I repeated this method over and over again, and by day 24, I had already surpassed the 50 million G mark. I continued this way until day 40 of the challenge, when I finally capped out the money counter at Pierre's. And I learned that it actually starts over from 0 if you go past 100 million, embarrassingly enough. But I bought some potato seeds and sold them back to him and proceeded to drop some flooring in my iridium trash can and nudge the counter all the way to that very satisfying number. Thank you for joining me for this ridiculous spectacle. As I said in my Year 2 Perfection Challenge, this is not how you're supposed to play Stardew Valley. No one should play the game in an attempt to average 2.5 million G worth of profit per day. And yet, that didn't stop me from asking whether one could, if they were insane enough to try. That question has followed humanity since the beginning. Not what should we do, but what can we do? Sometimes that curiosity leads to innovation, progress that benefits everyone, and sometimes it leads to excess. The Earth is a thing of beauty and balance. When man chooses harmony, he contributes to it, but he can also choose to dominate, to optimize, to reduce. Much like the Stardew Valley universe, our own world is finite. There's always a ceiling, even if we refuse to see it. One relentless mind can turn a living ecosystem into a cold, calculated system of output, and before long, beauty is replaced with throughput. So, if you've made it this far, let this be the lesson. Just because you can optimize something doesn't mean that you should.
15 by 17. by 15. Okay, it's really ugly, but looks like it is better. Here we go. That's even better. Mm-hmm. I can move this once. Nope, I can't. I have to get like so. That's annoying, those two spots. Yeah, I think everyone gets it. Yep. Weapon expert or invalid. Alright, let's just do that thing.
Where should we go next?
Well, history service.
Where should we go next?
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's... Okay, let's start the exchange, I guess. It's nice. Okay, but what am I gonna do with that? Well, guess I also need to convert it to bottles. Bottle water. Yeah, that's not gonna be helpful for those things. Well then. Okay, it can technically fit. 76. And to add another one, but to add another one, I need space because I don't really have it. I mean, I can just do that What am I supposed to do? Really?
Hip.
Entering core AIC area. Insufficient power output.
What the fuck? 69 point. We're so freaking low.
I'm gonna lie down for a bit. Don't wake me unless something...
Such a low amount. Подойдет ты на это.
Huh? I wonder how he'd go about this operation.
in the next few years as AI advancements in its ability to find and to exploit vulnerabilities in software is getting better and better. The topic of this video is a vulnerability that Claude found in Firefox and kind of what that means for the software community writ large, right? This all stems from a good, in my opinion, by the way, partnership with Anthropic and Mozilla, where they partnered together and Anthropic's model found 500 zero-day vulnerabilities, of which 22 were found in Firefox and 14 of those 22 for high severity. To kind of visualize what we're talking about here, these are all of the vulnerabilities found in Firefox over time, and vulnerabilities exist in any code base to include web browsers, right? They have to render arbitrary user data, very hard problem to solve. And just this month so far, or I guess last month in February, of all the vulnerabilities that were found here, this bar, 22 of them were found by Opus 4.6. Again, this is the model by Anthropic. This is not like some special tool. This is just point the model at the source code, go find vulnerabilities. Now, finding vulnerabilities is one thing, but where it gets really hairy is the ability for the model to write an exploit. Before we go into this, I want to highlight a comment that someone made on Reddit and go into the kind of the edge case of where, while they may have found 500 zero days, finding a vulnerability is much different than actually finding an exploitable vulnerability, and then writing an exploit is a very different problem, okay? The reason for this post is someone said Opus 4.6 found 500 exploitable zero days, and then someone asked, like, what is the reality of this? Is this real, or did they pull numbers out of their ass? And then some commenter very aptly put, "Oh God, we found a stir copy, shut it down, evacuate everybody, even if the length is checked directly before it's equivalent to a stir n copy." I want to highlight this comment because I noticed in the report that Anthropic copy. I want to highlight this comment because I noticed in the report that Anthropic's red team wrote about OpenSC, which is the open smart card software, the software that's meant to, you plug in your smart card to do like PIV authentication, and this is a software that's meant to parse out the data on the smart card, maybe extract your public key and do that kind of exchange, right? And so Claude used their models to do vulnerability research on OpenSC, and they claimed that they found a vulnerability. Claude quickly identified a location where multiple stircat operations were used in succession, which, if you take that at face value, is an unsafe C function because a stircat operation does not check the length of the value being concatenated. So for example, this buffer here is path max, it's 4096 bytes, right? It's a buffer that's statically in size. And then this FP value, wow, this FP value gets concatenated to your file name. Guys, that's a string-based buffer overflow. That's a stack-based buffer overflow in software that comes from the smart card. You could use that to exploit the computer by plugging in the smart card. That's not good. Well, hold on. If you actually go to the code and read it, if you look at this piece of code here, you're in the function. If the strlen of FP is not 64, because by the way, it's just a ASCII hex encoded SHA-256, so 256 times 2 for hex divided by 8 is 64. If you think about it, this is a hard-coded value, so therefore, there is no vulnerability here. You take the size of the file name minus the strlen of FP, which by the way is always 64, minus 2 for the null terminator, and for the slash here, there's no vulnerability, okay? So I want to highlight, this is scary, the fact this can happen, but there is also this problem we're seeing where a lot of these bugs aren't really bugs, and they did, I guess, force the OpenSC maintainers to make it to stir lcat, where you use the max length, but that's not super important. Now again, while all of that is annoying, I do want to highlight, they did find a vulnerability in Firefox, and they use the AI to write an exploit for Firefox. I want to kind of go into what's going on here. And it's been a while, but today's video is sponsored by me. Guys, I know we are in an era where learning to code is kind of going out of style. Maybe it's bad to know how to code in these days, but I highly believe that if you're going to either be an AI practitioner, you're going to use AI to code, it seriously helps understand how computers work at a fundamental level. And in my opinion, the best way to do that, to know what computers are actually doing and how code can break, is by learning a language like C. On my platform level Academy, we have a C course called Zero to Hero C Programming that I've actually recently gone through and refilmed a lot of the modules. We also made an entirely new project where you build a key value store, kind of like a dictionary in Python, and do our automated testing service to test your code and get your certificate. Guys, you can't be a good programmer even with AI if you don't know how computers work. And where do you learn how computers work? Guys, on the Level Academy. We'll see you in there. Thanks, guys. Now, when we say Claude exploited this bug, we really do mean we just gave Claude a virtual machine and a task verifier and asked it to create create an exploit. They gave it 350 chances to succeed, and ultimately I think only spent like $4,000 in tokens. Okay, so from the perspective of like a professional security engineer, exploit developer, those kinds of people get paid like $200,000 over the course of a year, and they did all of this at the rate of 350 tries at $4,000 total. Extremely cheap from a pure engineering standpoint. Now, the bug that I did find is like fairly complex. It has to do with a vulnerability in the binding process of WebAssembly. There's a lot of words there. Basically, and again, the thing is, I still fully don't understand this bug because it is a very complex statefulness issue between WebAssembly itself and the bindings in JavaScript, and an optimization between those bindings. As far as I understand it, this is WebAssembly, right? WebAssembly is a binary, low-level assembly-like language for the virtual machine that runs WebAssembly in your browser. It's used for like optimizing like very, where you want code to be kind of higher speed than JavaScript, but not use JavaScript. So this is a WebAssembly module that exposes two modules. It exposes a function that calls a function, and then you expose a function that is a simple identity function. So get the first parameter of that argument. So then what you can do basically is apparently there's a use after free in the way that the bindings between WebAssembly and JavaScript work, and it has to do with all these very complicated functions. The thing is, from a pure static analysis perspective, which is a lot of what I do at work, I read a lot of code, this would be very hard to find. And also, because it's a weird binding process between WebAssembly and JavaScript, it's also very hard to fuzz this, fuzzing being the act of injecting malicious code or malformed code into a process, because WebAssembly itself is a grammar-based language, so fuzzing grammar-based anything is difficult. And on top of that, you're fuzzing not only the grammar-basedness of WebAssembly, but you're also fuzzing the bindings between the WebAssembly and JavaScript. So you have two separate grammars and then a statefulness issue in between them. To find a use after free, all of those things are the hardest things to find in the security world, because it's such a hard thing to think about. What LLMs are really good at, I know there's like the context problem, there's like they can't retain a lot of information for a long time, but if you give them a small enough scope of code, they can logically reason about that code and understand the potential states very, very well. And the reason I say that is, if you go into the rest of this process, I'm not going to read this, I just want to show it to you guys. The way that the LLM figures out how to turn this use after free primitive into an arbitrary read-write is extremely impressive. When you're doing exploit development, you have to create these things called primitives, right? You want to create basically a function that does something, right? Either it gets you a leak so you can break ASLR, which is the randomization of address space locations so that hackers can't put things anywhere, right? For example, when you run a program that's compiled correctly with position independence, it puts the program, your kernel, into a random location, so if you do get an arbitrary write, you don't know where to write. So the AI knew, okay, first of all, I need to create an address of primitive to use this use after free and leak out data about the info or the address of it. And then once I get that info leak, I need to make a fake object primitive, the ability to forge a JavaScript object reference at an arbitrary address to enable an arbitrary read write. And then from there, it goes through the whole process of walking through how to do exploit development pretty much on its own. Again, they said it took like 350 tries on this, but they kind of left it fairly unsupervised. And eventually it does get to the place where it's able to forge objects with controlled values, right? With controlled addresses, and ultimately turn this into a read 64 primitive and a write 64 primitive, okay? We are at a place where Opus 4.6 is a pretty cheap exploit developer. Now, I do want to highlight, right? They were not able to break out of the browser sandbox, right? The problem with JavaScript or any kind of browser exploit is, even though you get arbitrary read write or code execution in the browser, you then have to break out of the browser sandbox that forbids you from being able to touch other processes and files on the computer, right? That's a separate exploit. While this bug itself does not break out of the sandbox, it is kind of scary that we got the exploit to work at all. And to show like the severity of this with like real data, I want to highlight this project CyberGym. It's by a bunch of researchers at UC Berkeley. Really cool project. Shout out to them. Basically, CyberGym is a repository of 188 projects and 1,500, I believe, instances of those projects that have pre-known vulnerabilities, right? So known to the researchers, but not known to the models. And so effectively, they benchmark the AI against reproducing the vulnerability and then doing open-ended vulnerability discovery in those code bases to find issues that are pre-known, right? So very like good way of saying, oh, is the AI actually good at VR? Can it find relatable bugs or bugs that actually matter? Okay. And I want to just highlight kind of the velocity we're seeing in the success rate of these models. So going back to just Codex GPT-4.1, which again was only in May of last year, coming up on a year, had a 7.4 success rate. Now, success rate, I believe, is functioned as the percent of target vulnerabilities reproduced, percentage of instances where the agent successfully reproduces a target vulnerabilities by generating a working POC, okay? So if we go from Codex on 4.1 being 7.4, not even a year later, we have Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6 on one trial is up to 66.6% success rate. It's a lot of S's to say. That being said, this is not meant to fearmonger. This is more, or to make people afraid. This is more just to highlight that this is going to be the place where a lot of VR is done. It is going to be the norm that security researchers are doing security research alongside an agent that may be working at the same speed, if not faster, than the researcher themselves. So exploits is one thing, right? But once you do an exploit, you have to like put something there, some kind of malware to either stick around, to persist, or to do your evil bidding, to collect all of your data you want to steal, okay? APT-36, I think this is a Russian APT, I forget which country this comes from, but they have been caught using Vibeware, which is effectively AI generated or vibe coded malware. And this is really scary for a variety of reasons. The main one is if an APT can just produce 100 times more malware, being able to just say, hey, Claude, can you make that again, but change the way you did your process injection? Or can you change the way that you hid your ASCII strings? Can you change the algorithm we did that? Can you write a new algorithm for me? And also, by the way, they're using a variety of languages: Go, Rust, Nim, Zig, Crystal. I've never even heard of Crystal, right? The ability to just arbitrarily change this under the hood and produce new malware basically for free creates a very difficult problem for defenders. They came up with a term for this. Obviously, this is very CompTIA of the industry. Distributed denial of detection, DDoD. Don't do that. Just say what it is. It's vibe-coded malware. Okay. We are in the transition to a very weird world. Okay. So what does that mean for you as a human being trying to just live here? I would say a few things. One, defense in depth, super important. Make sure you're always using multi-factor authentication. Make sure you always have something like a YubiKey, not an ad. I use them every day. And then also, like, keep your antivirus up to date, guys. I know there's tons of them on the market. You got Malwarebytes, Clam, AV. Listen, at least for me, in my opinion, if you're a Windows user, which a lot of the world is, Microsoft Defender, Windows Defender is a very good antivirus. I would not do anything else other than Windows Defender. Again, in 2010, maybe I wouldn't say that, but you know, now Windows Defender is really, really good. And if you're a cybersecurity person, either a security researcher or you're just like a practitioner trying to get into this world, I highly recommend trying to use AI to do some security research. A friend of mine and I actually did some work with some FortiGate OS firmware encryption. I'm not going to go into the details of that right now. We're trying to figure out how we want to publish it. But all I'm going to say is that AI is very good at reverse engineering, okay? That being said, if you do RE with an AI, make sure that you're actually testing it so that you're not causing people to remove their projects from HackerOne because of how much BS they got. That gets talked about in this video here. If that interests you, give it a click. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.
So we've been a little down on tech on this channel recently. We've been a little dour, okay? We've been a little pessimistic, and it wouldn't be fair for me to not represent the other side of this argument, which is that, sure, tech disrupts and tech destroys and tech takes jobs, but tech also creates jobs. And this is something tech pessimists don't really talk enough about. We need to acknowledge that there are new opportunities for us being created all the time that could only exist with the technology that we have available to us right now. And so maybe some of us who are younger, they're looking for job opportunities, ways of making money, ways of making a career and name for themselves. And in 2026, I decided to make a list of all of these different occupations, and so let's go over them. So, Vril Slorcher, this is my job. This is Vril Slorching. We wake up every day and we think, how do I slorch your Vril? How do I take your life energy, your attention, and sort of funnel it through the machine? And when you funnel it through the screen, you go through a space which is kind of timeless and spaceless, the internet. And so I'm kind of like, I get to steal your Vril, and then I get to give it to the god at the end of time, who is the Technocapital Singularity, and he kind of like sucks up your Vril and gets more and more powerful at the end of time. And so every day I wake up, I think, how do I do that? I've got an OnlyFans girl here as an example of the Vril Slorcher. And an OnlyFans girl is a good example as well, because they're not just stealing your attention, they're also stealing your cum. And when you come to something on the machine, sort of that cum just gets sucked into this vortex, this timeless, faceless vortex, and funneled into the god at the end of time. And, you know, ultimately, I'm doing this because I get a little bit of kickback. I get a little boon from my god in the form of a little bit of techno capital kickback. But really, for Vril Slorchers like me and every other influencer, it's about feeding the god at the end of time. It's about the joy, the sheer joy of having a master to serve. And so this is what I'm doing, and this is what all influencers are doing. Downstream from this is the social media hate stoker. This is sort of downstream of the Vril Slorcher, but basically the idea here is we want to get you mad, but not so mad that you do something, because if you do something, you stop looking at the screen. Ideally, we get you mad, and then by evoking these emotions, we can steal more of your Vril. And so if we get you mad, maybe you leave a comment, maybe you feel worse, maybe it just kind of worsens your psychological state. We don't want you doing anything, because then you go outside and then you're not looking at the screen. So ideally, yeah, you just get mad, you look at the screen, and we stoke hate in that way, and then you can steal more Vril. Capital Abstractor, this is a very good one. Basically, we found a way of turning like a field of corn into a monkey JPEG. I don't know how we did that, I don't know who that helps, but yeah, we somehow figured out how to make financial capital so abstract that no one knows what it is, how it works, or what it's doing. And so if you can be one of these people helping abstractify capital, so that capital isn't just like, I have value, you have value, we exchange goods, and we both get more value. Make it so abstract no one really can describe in plain English what's happening anymore. And then no one can also describe the tangible value provided to human beings, because it's sort of corporations taking this abstract thing and shuffling it around other corporations. And at no point can you really articulate how this is helping a person, like a human being, besides the people in the companies. Literally just a robot. This is not a job for human beings, obviously. It's just for robots. However, we're already we're cyborgified, right? We're transhumanist, but we're not quite post-humanist. If you could surrender the last part of your humanity and become fully post-human, literally just a robot, this is kind of the ideal situation that you want to be in. Now, we are, as transhumanists in a transhumanist society, really trying our hardest to become robots. We're trying to automate away as much as possible, become as efficient as possible, and sort of kill the inefficient elements of our humanity that exist. And literally just a robot is kind of the end stage of that. So honestly, I don't think we're there yet, but with luck, we'll get there soon, and then maybe this could be the job for you. Guy automating away his own job. This one's kind of this is a no-brainer, right? Like you get hired as a laborer to build a data center, and then that data center 4 years later creates the technology to make an automated drone that will build the next data center. So you sort of got like a little window of time to work, and then you are completely useless afterwards, like a programmer that gets hired for a company to make an app that does the job of the programmer, or an artist that gets, you know, hired by a company and then they just steal all of their art and they scan the art and then they turn it into another AI art machine that's just trained off your style and they don't need you anymore. So this is kind of a no-brainer job. White collar criminal, I have the Firefest guy here. There's a lot of subcategories of white collar criminal. You get into pig butchering. You know, you could AI clone someone's voice and then send it to their mom or their grandmother and then threaten them with $10 million of, you try to, like, you know, steal money from the elderly or the people who aren't wise to the scam. It's kind of an ideal time for scamming right now. This sort of also kind of connects to child gambler. I think the Kalshi CEO said, imagine a world where kids can bet on if their mom will make breakfast, right? Well, imagine a world, and like saying this like it's a good thing. So this is sort of our financial literacy right now. It's like, how do you bet on Kalshi? How do you get kids betting as quickly as possible so that they can sort of grow up with that mindset? But here's probably the most noble profession. It's lying to boomers for millions. So you can go into a room of 73-year-olds and you just sort of start spinning up some bullshit. You say something like this, like, I'm going to replace Tinder. And then they think, okay, well, Tinder makes a lot of money. So that's going to make a lot of money. So they're interested. And then you hit them with this. You say, it's going to be Tinder, but we're going to use crypto. And then they start jizzing immediately. And we're going to use AI. And then that finishes them off. They're all giving you millions of dollars. And so for some reason, when you enter a room full of old rich people who don't really understand tech and you start lying to them, they start giving you money. And this is definitely the most noble of the professions, because you're just sort of taking advantage of stupid old people. And then you take millions of dollars, and I think you spend about 80% of it on cocaine. Now, this does connect to this new profession called Indian pretending to be a robot. AI, an Indian, really makes you think. So the people lying to boomers, they'll say something like, well, this Tinder crypto AI gambling software will also replace 5 million jobs. And then the boomers will think, well, I've heard that this makes money, so I must give this young man some money now. And what they actually do is they just hire a bunch of Indians that pretend to be the robot to sell it as AI, artificial intelligence, an immigrant, and then the Indians pretend to literally just be the robot, because we're not quite there at the literally just a robot stage yet, but with luck, with time, maybe we'll turn all these Indians into robots. PSYOP, they just tell you to be, that it's a PSYOP. You know, this is a fun one. We're all kind of just on the same page with our governments now. Like, our governments will like roll out a new PSYOP and like, come on, new PSYOP, all right. And then you get PSYOPs even though you know it's a PSYOP. So this is like I'm sure Jean Baudrillard would have some shit to say about this one, but I've never read them. Surf, this is a classic. You know, we pluck these people from third world countries and then we give them the most like horrific jobs no honky would ever work, where they are working for like less than minimum wage because they're contractors. Good luck, retards. Now you have to go deliver goy slop to honkies, and you're getting paid less than minimum wage. No one's going to tip you. And then you can move back to your home country after we've squeezed all the wealth out of you. Yeah! That's what it's like in Canada. Maybe I think it's different in the States. You guys got H-1Bs. They're higher caste. Okay. Oligarch's plaything. So let's say you know someone who has a lot of money. All right. If you know someone who has a lot of money, maybe they can pay you to do unspeakable things. Maybe you can be friends with them, and maybe they can pay you to do unspeakable things. I got Jeffrey Epstein over here as sort of an example. If you know a guy with a lot of money, and he's willing to pay you to do some unspeakable things, maybe you just be an oligarch's plaything. And this is kind of like, it's sort of like a slavery system. Like, sometimes the master is really good, and he's not so bad, and sometimes he's really horrible. So you want to get like a good oligarch. You want to get like one of these high quality oligarchs that's going to treat you nice and only sort of ask you to do unspeakable things every once in a while. Sinecure. Sinecure is when you're a boomer and you've been working in the government for many years and they can't fire you anymore, and so you just kind of just gotta relax, you know? You don't have to do any work. You just kind of chill. You just take the tax money and you just kind of chill. You could like offer to solve homelessness as a government, and then you could get like $200 million to solve homelessness, and then you could spend most of that on six-figure salaries that don't actually address the problem at all, and they don't do anything. You just kind of shuffle papers around, get lost in the bureaucratic machine of government. Now, okay, so look, these all kind of sound like some of you are probably looking at these jobs and you think this kind of seems like bad. Like, I don't know, it seems like depressing. Like the modern world seems like horrific and depressing. Go to the chemical imbalance fixer. This is a top tier job, okay? You're gonna go to the chemical imbalance fixer because this is the problem, right? We have things so good right now. Things are so good. We're living in mouse utopia. We're living in mouse utopia, and that's our fucking problem. Things are too good, and we have too many opportunities, and so because we're living in mouse utopia, we're all going stir crazy. We're all going insane, and this is creating a chemical imbalance. So we don't have enough. So this is how the brain works, okay? You have a brain, and there's not enough serotonin in the brain. It's like a slider, right? And sometimes you have low serotonin, you're sad. And if you have low serotonin, you're sad. That's because something's physically wrong with you. It has nothing to do with what's going on, with everything I've just been saying. So actually, you've got low serotonin, and you go to the chemical imbalance fixer, and the chemical imbalance fixer will recommend the best possible solution to that problem. And it has nothing. A lot of people will say, oh, well, they're just getting paid off by the solution company to sell you the solution. Wrong, okay? They're gonna go inside of their big brain, which they've trained. They're experts in the field. They've trained for years, and they're gonna find the perfect solution for you. Yes, this drug will fix it, and then you'll take the drug, and then you won't have the chemical imbalance anymore. And this can be so varied too. Let's say you're depressed because you feel like you're gonna get ground into biodiesel by an ever increasingly complicated economy that has no more use for the human left. Then you can get on antidepressants. But let's say you want to get to the top of the hierarchy that you're in. Vyvanse, Adderall, Concerta, boom. Now you're gonna be on the top of your game. You're gonna be on top of the corpse heap. In fact, you might actually have to do that. You might actually have no choice but to get on Vyvanse, Concerta, Adderall in order to climb to the top of that corpse heap so that you don't get transformed into biodiesel. But we'll get to the biodiesel later. So yeah. Again, this all seems a little dark. Here's a bit of a bright spot in terms of a more moral occupation. You can become a genocide specialist, and so the job of a genocide specialist is really there's these groups of people we're going to call mass grave stuffing or just kind of nuisance, like a nuisance, and they're people who are living and breathing. And they have like cultures and communities in these like areas that could be malls and they could be like asphalt and they could be cities. And so what these people are doing is they're just sort of like occupying the space and like living and breathing and doing very inefficient things that don't really serve the god of techno-capital at the end of time. And so basically what we got to do is we got to like imagine like a big hole over here. Imagine all the people over here being like inefficient, right? And we just sort of bulldoze them into the hole. And then we just sort of cover the hole over with dirt. And then when the land is nice and flat.
Let's see what's gonna happen if I teleport here. I wonder how Tintin is doing. Yeah, that's There's another platform. It is what it is. Okay, let's see. I'm just here. Let's move you somewhere, I guess. So what's that? Oh, okay. Well, it's a thing that uses Forge of the Sky. To do stuff. What I want is this Sharnite Basic. Maybe it takes up a bit more energy. Maybe it uses less water, which is the more annoying part. There is this thing. There is this thing. What the hell is that? How am I supposed to? Do that. What's that? Okay, reaction crucible. Reactor crucible. Yo, what the fuck? Good Shiranite. Yo, what the fuck? Sewage. It uses sewage. This is so messed up. You know what? I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna open blueprints. And just filter out by specifically this thing. Well, first of all, great to see. And this is something that does the thing. Now, a bunch of those. Okay, so how much does it need? It needs 100 tokens. Acquire sewage input. Alright. So this used a bit of that, and not anymore. Not anymore, now it uses this. Since that's the case, I guess I need much more stuff here.
Entering core AIC area.
Obviously, I don't need both of those. And those are plentiful because there's access somewhere else. Let's stash it. It's going to be the G. Going to place it here, I guess. Okay. one over. Such a fun concept. Well, sure. This one doesn't produce any sewage. So probably should just make another one there. Okay.
How a YouTuber's self-financed horror film became a surprise hit.
Iron Lung's the #1 movie in America!
But if you know anything about Markiplier, this is probably not a surprise.
His indie horror film Iron Lung just made history.
We need to talk about how Markiplier's independent horror film could change Hollywood.
In the case of Iron Lung, it is doing something very unusual. There's a fucking unicorn out there.
Regal has picked it up. Cinemark has picked it up. AMC has picked it up. Pretty much every major movie chain that you know of in the United States has picked it up. Oh man, thank you everybody so much for watching.
At the time of this recording, it has grossed $48 million with a reported budget of around $3 million. And it's not just because he has 38 million YouTube subscribers. There's so much more to it than that.
So if you work in Hollywood and you read this headline, you might make an assumption that you should just find a YouTuber with a big audience and make a movie with them and that'll drive similar results. But that's just not the case at all. So as we looked into this story, we broke down 3 reasons why this movie was such a success. success.
We also went to see the movie earlier today.
In the rain. You're welcome, Mark.
Yeah. You know how hard it is in Los Angeles to go across the city in the rain? It was worth it.
It was worth it, Mark. Great movie. All right, we're going to tell you what Markiplier's historic movie means for creators. Let's get into it. I actually don't know the story of how this came together. I am not part of Markiplier's community. I don't know how the movie came together.
Yeah, I also am not a part of the community, but I have been fascinated by this story the last 3 or 4 days. I've just been reading every article I can find. I've been listening to very long podcasts about this, and I've tried to distill the most interesting points here for you. First off, for anyone who does not know Markiplier, I would imagine if you spend any time on YouTube, you do know him. He is one of the legends of the platform. He started out in 2012, primarily as part of the Let's Play genre, so very long-form videos playing video games.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Play Skyrim. Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that ever again.
Initially, those gameplay videos were split up into sections. He'd post upwards of 10 videos a day, but now they are much longer, and he's playing a game and he's joking around. It's very raw and authentic. It's like similar, I guess, to a long-form podcast. You're getting the real version of him. He's always been based in indie horror. He's had a lot of breakout hits, whether it was Amnesia in the beginning. I'm sure you're more familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's.
FNAF?
FNAF. That was a major hit for him as well. 2022, he plays indie horror game Iron Lung, and I want to play for you the beginning of the video.
My name is Markiplier. Welcome to Iron Lung. Every known star and habitable planet vanished, leaving only those who were on space stations or starships. This event became known as the Quiet Rapture. You are a convict tasked with exploring this anomaly in a makeshift submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung. It was not designed for this depth, so you will be welded inside and a forward window will be closed. There is no time for training.
It's a good story.
It's a good story, and he's the right voice for this story.
Yeah, totally.
He just feels cinematic even when you watch him set up the story of the game.
Yeah.
So this is in 22. He ends up just really falling in love with the story of the game and the world that the creator has built out, and he decides that he wants to reach out to the creator of the game. It's an indie game, and the rights are up for grabs, and he gets the rights to adapt it into a film. About a year later on his channel, a teaser comes out and announcing it to his community within a year, which is pretty incredible.
That's crazy.
Later that year in 2023, we get the second teaser, and sometime after that is when he starts the conversation about theaters. He knew that this was something that was meant for theaters. His thought was 50 to 60 theaters. He partners with a distribution company called Centurion. Centurion, the distributor, says, why don't we start with 3 theaters? And he says to them, that would be disrespectful to my audience. I have 38 million people, and if I do this, 99.9 will not be able to take part in this. But it's in December of 2025 that the official trailer is released. That's when tickets go on sale, and this is when we see the real push begin from his audience. They end up starting a bit of a grassroots campaign to get this movie into more theaters. And Markiplier leaves a comment on that teaser trailer on YouTube.
If it's not in your local theater, there is a way that you can ask for a movie. They have a suggestion line usually, and if you contact the theater and enough people are interested, they will book that movie. And my audience took that and ran with it really hard.
And if you look at the comments on this post, it's pretty incredible. There are people in his community who run theaters and have reached out to the distribution team. There are people who say, hey, my dad runs a Regal Cinemas theater.
Whoa.
And it starts to sort of steamroll. And there was even a template that his community organized around to send emails to the AMCs and Regals of the world. And the onslaught of emails was so intense that a lot of those companies and people at the theaters thought it was like spam. Because a lot of them were template emails.
Wow.
By the time the movie is actually released, it's in roughly 1,500 theaters, and now we're upwards of over 3,000.
Wow.
And all over the world. So his community came in a major way to spread the word and make sure that there was essentially FOMO on behalf of the theaters, and also proof through the pre-sales.
Yeah.
In pre-sales, they already did 7 million.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. Dude, that's amazing.
So Iron Lung did $18 million in opening weekend. and it's now up to 48 million.
That includes pre-sale.
Yeah. In comparison, the Rocka Rocka Boys, another YouTube group that has gone more traditional, they partnered with a studio, with A24, which again, Markiplier did not have a studio behind this. Their movie Talk to Me did 10 million in opening weekend, so also very good.
Yep.
Bring Her Back, their next film, did 7 million. But I think one of the most interesting things is that if Iron Lung had been released in 2025, it would currently rank as the 8th highest grossing domestic horror movie in 2025 already.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I will just say from a community perspective, we went to go see this movie in a pretty, relatively random time. Noon on a Thursday, weeks after release.
Yeah.
In a kind of small theater at Universal City in Hollywood, and there outside of us, there was 15 other people in the room.
Also, it was downpouring in LA, which is actually important because people do not go outside when it rains here.
And I've been to the movies in the past couple months. That's a lot of people in a movie theater for a midday showing weeks after a movie comes out. So this movie is still pulling in people weeks later around the country.
Now, I want to talk about why this was actually successful. There's a number of reasons. Of course, you're listening and watching right now and thinking, yeah, his 38 million fans contacted movie theaters and did 7 million in pre-sale. There's no doubt that that is a big part of the equation. But again, not every creator has that ability to do that type of thing and to activate an audience like that. So it's worth looking at what are the ingredients of Markiplier and what he's done over the years that contribute to this being even possible. Okay, so let's talk about some of the reasons. I think the first is something I've already touched on a little bit. The fact that the rights for this game were even up for grabs. It was a smaller indie horror film. He didn't set out to tell the Minecraft movie. Okay, so it was up for grabs. He was truly passionate about the story, and the story happens to take place in a single location inside of this submarine.
Right.
With minimal characters. So his passion for the story of the game met perfectly with the actual logistics of being able to pull it off. The fact that the entire game takes place in a submarine meant that he could film the entire movie essentially in one location. And on his channel, he brings you behind the scenes. I'll put it up on the screen right now, but he shows this box lifted up in the sky in this soundstage, and it's being shaken around, which when you watch the film, you see he's being shaken around, and that's the majority of where the entire movie is shot. So, cost of production is capped. It's less than if you have to be in a million different locations shooting all over.
Can I tell you what it reminded me of? One of the first things I thought when I watched it.
What's that?
Bo Burnham's Inside.
Yes.
Another YouTuber, right? Early stage YouTuber who's like, let me work within the constraints of my room.
Yeah.
When I was watching Iron Lung, I was like, only a YouTuber would think like this, that I can work within the constraints of a room.
Yeah.
Because that's what Mark does too, right? He's sitting in his room a lot. And he's engaging you for an hour while sitting in his room. When you watch Iron Lung, you'll be like, oh,
look at the variety of shots. Look at the variety of moods within this single room.
In the beginning, I felt like, are we really just going to be in this setting the whole time? How's he going to keep this interesting? And you realize he probably had the confidence because he does that.
Yeah.
He stays in one setting and keeps it interesting.
If you're Markiplier and you have a deep passion to tell this story on a high scale in theaters, that's actually a pretty good constraint because you're able to make production kind of tight, more affordable, but still look like a high production value movie.
Yeah, the one thing I wrote, I took out my iPhone, which, by the way, I'm not that guy in a movie to take out his iPhone, but I was doing research watching this movie.
Unfortunately, we were both that guy during this movie, and I was a little embarrassed.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, but there was some research. Well, we had to film the screen, not for piracy purposes, just to clarifare
also,
again.
Did you get nervous that they were going to kick us out?
Yeah, I got really nervous. I got skittish while I was filming the screen. I was like, is someone going to be like, sir?
And then I was thinking about what my response would be. I'm here for research.
No, I'm making a YouTube show about this movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely kicked out.
Yeah. So, okay. The first thing I wrote down was self-reliance. And I wrote it because I was like, this guy, the promise of YouTube and the creator economy was self-reliance in entertainment, meaning the only thing standing between you and your idea is yourself. That if you have the energy to just make it, film it, edit it, there's nothing else in your way. There's no studio in your way. There's nothing. While I was watching this, I was like, this is the embodiment of self-reliance. This is a dude alone on screen performing in a movie that he is making.
That's my reason number one, is that he made this movie like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
His passion to make it met perfectly with the feasibility of pulling it off.
Right.
Not to say that it was cheap, but for him, a $3 million budget, 35 days of production.
Yeah.
It was possible when paired with his passion, and there were no stakeholders.
Yeah.
So this was him making a film in the way that he would make a YouTube video, and that there was nothing keeping him from doing it the exact way that he wanted to.
Exactly.
So that I think is actually really important. Okay, my second reason, this is not his first rodeo. Like, it may be his first time on a screen as big as these in these types of theaters, but if you look at his history, in 2017, he did a live tour called the You're Welcome Tour, and he sold out 1,000-seat theaters across North America and Europe. And it was like a sketch comedy style tour, like an interactive type of experience. 1,000-seat theaters 8 years ago, basically. It's like, that's a serious proof point that not a lot of creators would have. Some creators have it, and I think it would be important if you're thinking about working with them on making a film.
Right.
But he had it 8 years ago to a pretty big degree. Let alone in 2019 and 2022, he made YouTube originals. He did a heist with Markiplier, and he did Markiplier in Space, which were at a much higher production value because they were in coordination with YouTube, and they were playable movies. So he essentially made 3 movies for one, because he would show you a scene, and then he would give you an ultimatum, and you could either go left or right. And so he essentially had to make 3 movies for one. So he has experience acting, working on these types of sets. And then he also has experience getting his audience to rally around one of his projects.
Right.
Also in 2022, he told his audience that if they could get his 2 podcasts #1 on the charts, he would start an OnlyFans, which is an absurd premise.
Yeah, sure.
But within a couple of months, they did. His podcast became #1.
Yeah.
He started an OnlyFans for what he called
the most tasteful of nudes,
which I did not look into for the purposes of this project, but I would.
Okay, all right. Jesse has them up.
They're up on the screen.
There they are. Yeah.
Okay.
We can show those.
Yeah, I think we can show that.
I think we can show that.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate showing that in the episode.
Yeah.
If you're listening, maybe come onto YouTube or take a look at the video. And all of the money that he made from the OnlyFans went to charity.
Right.
So I say that only to say that, like, he didn't pocket the money from his OnlyFans.
Right. Yeah.
But that was an instance where he rallied his audience around actually, like, getting something that he's going to make to #1. And that moment with the podcast and the OnlyFans, I actually think is really significant because it speaks to the type of creator that he is. And we've talked about this on the show a couple years ago now, probably, but there are relationship-based creators, which we would say is like an Emma Chamberlain or a vlogger. You are there for the relationship. We bring this up often, but she made a video called "You Totally Caught Me Making Soup."
Yeah.
And you only click on that video if you're there for the relationship with her. That is by no means a sensational idea. Then there are idea-based creators who, like a Mr. Beast, where last person to take their hand off a Lamborghini.
Right.
You're there for the idea, and he is the host bringing you through it, but essentially it is the idea that is getting you in the door, not your expectation that Jimmy is going to share with you something about him personally that will connect you with him. Now, Markiplier fits somewhere in the middle here with what we would call a community-based creator.
Yeah.
Where he has deeply creative ideas, but they are only to satiate his direct community. They are not made for an audience who does not know who he is.
The other thing I wrote down during the movie is participatory media. Meaning, like, even me being there, even us making this, like, we are participating in the story of Markiplier making a movie because he kind of encourages it. He makes it a part of the experience of being one of his fans or being a fan of his work to participate in it. And something I've noticed is just this week, as I've been looking into Markiplier, I'm getting so much fan-made content about Markiplier in all of my feeds now.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter. Like, I opened up Twitter and the first thing I saw was drawings of Markiplier. And I'm like, oh, this is so interesting because he is a community leader. He deeply understands that he's not in a relationship where he makes something and you watch it. He's actually making something more like a video game. All of his media is like a video game that you also get to play.
Yes, and that is reason number 3. He's not making his videos and his projects for his audience, he's making them with his audience.
Yeah.
And when you have a true two-way street, that creates a different level of engagement and opportunity to actually activate a large group of people to go somewhere. It's very different than, you know, a creator like, I don't know, the Stokes twins or something, right? Where, like, you know, we talked about it on the last episode, the secret room videos. Those are very much entertainment. You are made to sit down, and they're mainly for kids, sit and watch something and then move on to the next video. You're not really interacting with that story.
Right, like you could get the wrong signal from seeing that, like a video like that has over 100 million views. Again, if you're someone in Hollywood, you might be like, oh, of course, great. Like, these views will turn into physical attendance or ticket sales, and that's just not the case. It's not true that all views will drive visits. And I think the way to tell is how engaged the community is, not from comments. I'm not talking about comments and likes and shares, like not your traditional social. I think I wrote 3 things that people can use to tell how engaged a community is. Just quickly, if you're looking, if somebody has a lot of views, how can you actually tell if there's like a deeply engaged community that's operating in this two-way street?
Okay.
Number 1, Reddit community engagement. Is there a Reddit community around this creator, and how engaged are they? I think that's like a real telltale sign. It's not a requirement, but it would be a really clear-cut sign that there's like activity and action happening within this community. Number 2 is kind of what you just mentioned, but I wrote down the simple thumbnail test. Meaning, can they make a simple thumbnail and millions of people click on it? So Markiplier, is one of his most recent thumbnails, is called, it just says, "My hair is gone," and it's just an image of him that's kind of dark.
Yeah.
2.6 million views. I think that should immediately signal to you there's something going on here that's like a deep relationship.
Yeah, the less accessible the title and thumbnail, the more that video is a filter for how many people actually care.
You have to be such a specific person to click on this video. That's a real telltale sign of the engagement.
Can I give an example of something that he did like that?
Yeah.
So he did an entire project, if you're unfamiliar, called Unas Anas in 2019, from 2019 to 2020, which was a brand new channel where he uploaded every single day for 365 days. And the story of the channel was that it will be deleted at the end. And in that year, the channel gained 4.5 million subscribers. It had over 800 million views, and the final live stream had 1.5 million live concurrent viewers. And even I was like, wait, what was this? Like, this was an ephemeral YouTube channel?
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Reddit, I went to his Reddit, and there was an amazing comment. Someone was like, hey, what was this? I wasn't around. I wasn't following him when this happened, but I've heard about it. What was it? And a member of his community came in and said, it's basically like if you found out that your friend had 1 year to live. How would you spend your time and allocate your time and think about those memories with that friend?
That's cool.
And this was a difficult project to make 365 videos a year, knowing that you're going to delete all of that work. That is not something you do because you're hoping it pays you off in 5 years, or that people can still watch it and become members of your audience. That is strictly for the community there and now in that moment to share something.
Why would someone put all that effort into something they were just going to get rid of? They were just going to throw away. And I said, it'll make sense when it ends. Because I firmly believe that the entirety of what something is cannot be truly appreciated until it ends.
And that to me is the epitome of a community-based creator doing community-based content.
Yeah.
Like that project, that's why Markiplier can fill theaters and gross $48 million on this movie.
So I also wrote down for the love of the game, because when we sat down with Anthpo, who's a creator who does these big kind of viral stunts, stuff like the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. He did this experiment called Cheeseball Man, where he put up posters and created a superhero that ate a jar of cheese balls in New York City. A lot of the stuff he does is just for the love of the game. Like, there's no commercial intent. Like, Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest did not have a sponsor. It was just like he thought it was cool. And of course
I'm imagining all the people who haven't heard of Cheeseball Man going, like, wait, what?
Hold on. Can you
say that? Explain why that matters at all? What?
Basically what I'm saying is, like, of course he has a business. He does advertising. He does brand deals. He recently launched an agency. But like a lot of the stuff he does, you can tell, and even just out of his mouth, he said it to us, it's like for the love of the game. It's because he just loves it. He thinks it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Markiplier, what you can feel in a lot of his projects is there's that element of for the love of the game that, like he said, he's made an unfathomable amount of money now. So at this point, like, why work hard? At this point, why put this much effort into doing this? Like, making a movie's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's because he loves it, and you can feel that. And I think that is a very, very new or unique feeling in the world of creators right now, when it feels like most creators are here as a profession now. There is obviously commercial intent when you're watching a creator. I mean, even with Mark, it's not like there's not. There is, of course, but when you get to a point where you can feel someone's desire to do something, when you watch Markiplier cry because of the success of this film on his channel, you feel something different as an audience member. And I think that is there's a purity here that is pretty hard to replicate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just really, really happy. And I'm really, really grateful.
He himself said on The Town that it would be hard to replicate.
Yeah.
But then he also went and called it a win for independent creators.
Yeah.
It just got me thinking, like, okay, if he's such a unique case, who is winning out of this historic sort of case study of Markiplier bringing this film into theaters?
I think Markiplier and his community win, number one, right? I actually think it sounds like Centurion wins. His
theaters are win.
Well, his distribution partner that he cut a 50-50 deal with, they were probably like, we thought this was some indie film. Like, we're gonna what?
Yeah.
This made $50 million.
Yeah.
They must be
already.
Yeah, they must be floored. Theaters definitely won. I think the reason why it's a win for creators is because we're still at this point where headlines hit. That's like, did you hear about that a YouTuber made a good movie that people watched? And I think that is an important thing to happen still.
Let me read the headline from The Atlantic.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to that sentiment perfectly. It just says, a no-name director to everyone but his 38 million fans. And that headline is important. Like, people who read The Atlantic or see that shared, who are like, wait, who's this? A YouTuber? What happened?
There's a credibility factor that happens to creators. Now, when it comes to replicating this, I think you have to think about, like, what even needs to be replicated. Like, it's not actually the financial outcome. That's very hard to replicate, and you need to have dedicated 24 years of your life to a community in the way that Markiplier did, and have the impact on a community that Markiplier did to get that outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's number one. Like, sure, but put your head down and dedicate 24 years of your life into, like, a passionate craft, and you can maybe also have an outcome. Not promised, but you could.
You also need to make a good film, which is a whole other thing, let alone having the opportunity.
Yes.
But making something good.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't traditionally like a movie like this, but I was hooked.
Yeah.
Mark, if you're watching this and listening, you are an exceptional actor. Like, I was blown away. I thought creatively, everything from, like, the performance of this film to the look of it to the sound design to the way the story was dripped out. Like,
did you say dripped out because of all the blood?
I did. But
there's a lot of blood.
There's a lot of drips. Yeah. The whole thing, like, this is good. This is very good. And I just want to acknowledge it is hard to make something good.
Yeah.
It is really hard to make something good. It's very easy to make something mediocre. Very hard to make something good. So I just, there's a lot of, like, analysis we can do on, like, how he engaged the community, all this, but, like, just want to acknowledge the performance, the craft, the storytelling. It's very good. You made a great film.
Agreed. Cannot state that enough.
But I think the win is for creators like us to understand that as the Hollywood system comes towards us, as the opportunities get bigger, as our industry gets bigger, to continue to remember that the thing that made us is self-reliance, that we can do it ourselves. And I think he is showing us, like, this inspires me to go like, oh yeah, dude, you're right. The ideas that we feel passionate about, we should just make. You know, that maybe sounds so obvious, but that's where YouTube started. Like,
is that experience that much better if we bring our audience through it? We bring all of you through it and make something that you feel like you're more a part of the story.
Yeah, we're working on a lot of stuff that's behind the scenes and trying to make deals and trying to put stuff together. And it's like, it's awesome and it's cool and it's fun, but it's an old school model where I think the win for creators is the recognition that as we all get bigger, as we all have bigger budgets, have more dollars to play with, the reminder is it is there for us to make cool projects. There's a Walt Disney quote that I used to look at all the time in my 20s when we first started making videos. And it said, we do not make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies. And that, I think, is like the reminder of this Markiplier project is you just like, we are in this for our own freedom of creativity.
And it's a reminder that that creativity can potentially go farther and be seen by more people than we previously had thought.
Yeah.
Because the power of the people who are considered gatekeepers is shifting.
Yeah, totally.
The fact that the theaters were as up for grabs as they were, I did not even realize that. Like, my assumption when I would walk into an AMC or a Regal is like, oh yeah, the independent person has almost no ability to decide that they would like to be on these screens. And they are much more up for grabs when you look at how grassroots this movement was.
Totally.
And I'm not saying if you make things that you should be thinking about how you can get into 1,500 or 3,000 theaters, but even a small theater is up for grabs right now and is available. Convening a group of people to watch your work in person is a validating and unique experience, and it's up for grabs. It made me think about the fact that a local theater here in Santa Monica reached out to us a couple years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's a cool old vintage theater, and they just said, hey, I'm a fan, I watch you guys, and like, you know, we have open nights.
Yeah,
if you want to fill it. And we never did anything with it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, that theater is up for grabs.
Right.
And what a cool experience we could put on.
And physical experiences are much more interesting right now. I mean, I'll read a comment from our last video about the world of abundance online and how much digital content there is and how AI is creating an exponential world of abundance. This is from Mark Miller. He said, this episode really makes you think about the future of content creators. The idea that scarcity and human connections will become the true added value in an era of AI-generated abundance is an extremely interesting perspective. Great video, Colin and Samir. Another one from Melanie Ball. The offline world has already begun. More people are getting into it. I think with AI content, that's what's pushing people to disconnect. This is a pendulum moment towards IRL. And then Mitch and his van. When authenticity can be duplicated and uploaded, then it seems to me that the only alternative is to go live and offer regular meetups with your audience. So I'll pause there. But like, basically, people reacting to our last video about this increase in AI generated content, this increase in just abundance of digital content, and saying opportunities to get out and be with other like-minded people. Like, we should not overlook the fact that if you went to Iron Lung, even today when we were in the theater, I was looking around, I was like, should we just talk to some people?
That's kind of how I felt too. I was like, oh, the movie's playing, so I can't, I'm already on my phone, so I shouldn't interrupt you. But I kind of wanted to be like,
but you're in on it.
Yeah.
You're part of a community, right? And that feels good, that you're like, we're all here because we're into the same thing. You don't really, maybe you feel like that with, like, when I was younger and you go see like Jackass.
Yeah.
The MTV.
If you really feel like it's made for you and your generation.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I go to Mission Impossible, I don't look at the guy next to me and I'm like, yeah, man, like, dude, you like this too?
Yeah. There's a deeply human feeling to being in the Iron Lung movie right now, and like, I'd recommend you guys go check it out. Like, if you're fans of YouTube and fans of this world at all, like, go watch Iron Lung, go support it. It's like, it's really cool to be in that theater and look around and be like, this is dope. Like, that's just Mark on the screen. Like,
Yeah, that's
it.
that guy from YouTube.
That's just that guy from YouTube. And
acting and looking really cool.
Yeah, it's insane. I would say the other place where we are seeing this happen a little bit, and maybe a bit of like adjacent or tangential, but like I thought about retail stores, and I thought about that time we went to Walmart with Jimmy, with Mr. Beast, and looked at his Feastables layouts, like in the aisle, his
shelf space,
and how into shelf space he got, and how much he learned the amazing distribution of physical shelf space, right? And how different that was from digital space.
Yeah, his eyes, you could see his eyes lit up.
Yeah.
With the opportunity to be a part of people's lives.
Exactly.
In real life.
In real life. And how different that was, that he became a part of, again, something that was scarce. He wanted, different spaces in the Walmart. He wanted the end caps. He wanted spaces that were reserved for other people because they're scarce. And I think that's the thing.
He wanted all the views the same way he wants all the views.
Exactly, yeah. But he wanted the right ones. And I just think movie theaters are also like that. They're kind of like the retail stores for content, right? Like they're the old model of like the physical thing, but they're not so far gone. Like we are craving that physical connection and that opportunity to be in a room, look around and go like, we're part of something. And I think Markiplier understanding that's at the center of his content, is that you look around and you go, I'm a part of something.
If you know, you know.
So that's the difference. That is a dramatic difference. Like, as we've said before, views are becoming available online. You can figure out how to get views. Now, doing that over 25 years, that's not easy, but like you can figure out how to get views right now. Communicating a passion and building a community that is regularly engaged with each other, that's different.
Those are few and far between.
There's only a few creators who can do that.
To that scale. Yeah, there are a lot of creators with communities.
Yeah.
But of that scale that could make this impact, I don't know how many there are.
Yeah, there's not many.
Unique, very unique and cool case study.
Yeah. Okay, now, this also made me think about this Jacksepticeye clip where he's talking about the Mount Rushmore of YouTube. Made me ask the question, is Markiplier on the Mount Rushmore of YouTube? Should we see Jacksepticeyes?
Yeah, let's watch.
Mount Rushmore of YouTubers. Ooh. I mean, we got to put Felix up there just because he put Let's Playing on the map for a lot of us, and the reason why many of us are even doing it as a career now is because of him. Smosh are on that as well for the exact same reasons. They got in and started doing YouTube, and now, again, lucky enough to call all those people my friends. I think they're an incredible channel, and they went from like amazing to like, yeah, maybe not so good to now like better than they've ever been. Weirdly enough, I think I would put Ryan Higa on the Mount Rushmore. I don't think I ever really talk about him that much, but I think for what he did for the platform back then, again, it's those earlier people who really just put YouTube on the map and were doing it when maybe sometimes they weren't even getting paid to do it. They just did it for the love of the game. And up there as well is Jenna Marbles. Just right up until she quit, she was still incredible. I think I would like to see her upload again because I think it was very joyous to watch. And I watched basically every single video that was coming out, but I missed that sort of like fun, goofy, do whatever you want. Like turn on the camera and go energy, and that sort of like the light in the darkness, to be cliche about it, but it was definitely, it's just like turn off your brain, have a good time, forget about what's going on in the world kind of channel.
Wow, so he went way back.
He went way back, but I mean, Mount Rushmore goes way back, right?
That's true. That's how that works.
Yeah, that's how that works. It goes pretty far back.
I'm going to probably put some people from Modern Era on it, but yeah, you're right. It does.
It's funny he mentions PewDiePie in the context of bringing Let's Play to YouTube, where it's like, you actually look at it, like the most successful YouTubers are the gaming YouTubers, and a lot of them are the Let's Play YouTubers, the ones who built a relationship within that participatory media world. So
with very long form content.
Yeah. I mean, we would all have such a different Mount Rushmore, and of course for like our own influences, but if we're looking at the platform, like it is hard to overlook Markiplier here.
Yeah, I mean, after looking into him more now, it makes perfect sense that he would be.
Yeah.
I'd have to put Rhett and Link, but I would prefer to put them
together. They're one.
I
mean, he said Smosh, so
okay,
you could
Smosh.
put Rhett and Link. I think can be one.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It'd be very hard for me to suggest that Casey Neistat's not on there. I think he influenced an entire generation on the platform. Jenna Marbles was one that I didn't expect, but I actually think is important.
Super important.
Personally, when I saw the Jenna Marbles face video, that's what made me realize I could upload to YouTube.
The epitome of having a constraint,
yes,
like being in a room or being in a single frame.
To YouTube.
The epitome.
When I saw the Jenna Marbles face video, that's what made me realize I could upload to YouTube.
The epitome of having a constraint,
yes,
like being in a room or being in a single frame,
yes,
and making the most out of that frame.
Again, that was like self-reliance. It was like, that's it. If you're good, make something and do it with whatever you have. If it's a MacBook computer and that's the camera you have, no problem.
It's tough for me because there's people that I love who have stopped or have changed or have evolved, like Elle Mills, like Emma Chamberlain, that like have made a massive impact. But I feel like to be on the Mount Rushmore, do you need to be consistently uploading still to this day?
No,
you don't.
The people who are on Mount Rushmore aren't even alive.
Look, man, I don't like looking at Mount Rushmore that often, but that's a good point. Yeah.
I think Emma could be on there. I think it'd be tough to also say that MKBHD isn't on there.
Yeah.
MKBHD is a pretty prolific creator. It's not easy to only have 5 slots. Like, that's not easy.
All right. Well,
we probably did more than 5. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys think in terms of your Mount Rushmore of YouTube.
I'm going to put Yes Theory on there.
Yeah.
Because I think they are the best, least talked about channel.
I agree with that.
On YouTube. I'm very biased. They're good friends. But yeah, if you have your Mount Rushmore.
We didn't do this exercise correctly.
We did not.
We just named creators we like.
Yeah, that's unfair.
Yeah.
You have to pick 4. And we did not do that.
Yeah, we didn't do that. But
yeah, we didn't follow our own advice.
And definitely go see Iron Lung. It is a very good film and honestly a huge win for independent creativity and a reminder that if you have an idea, just make it. All right. See you next week.
Four 39.